everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of The David Nassau Show. I am The David Nassau, and I am extremely excited for today's episode. We're bringing in one of my best friends, Blake, over here, who used to be a software engineer at Google, where he diligently maxed out his 401k, paid down his mortgage, and invested the rest of his savings into a diverse portfolio of low-cost index funds. He kept a copy of A Random Walk on Wall Street on his coffee table, and he gave free financial advice to all of his friends. He scoffed at day traders, opting instead for disciplined, rational investing. Today, he's unemployed, $10,000 deep in penny stocks. I'm sorry, Blake, and and checks me. Such a well-written bio. Today, he's unemployed, $10,000 deep in penny stocks. Can't even get past this. Checks memes. checks, checks meme coin prices multiple times a day. Where did it all go wrong? In this episode, Blake will share his journey from Buffett disciple to Wall Street bets reject. Without further ado, Blake, that was an amazing, uh, well-written bio that I couldn't stop laughing through. But um, welcome on board, dude. Welcome to the show,
Thanks,
and
man. Good to be
excited
here.
excited to have you on. So yeah, obviously feel free to please tell us more about yourself in your own words. Obviously that bio was, a little cheek and mouth, but tell us about who you are and what makes Blake Blake, and we'll get into it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the bio, I think, was actually completely accurate and 100% on the money. There's no exaggeration. All of that's 100% true. And I really want this episode to
Sure.
kind of
Yeah. I
serve as a
mean,
cautionary tale to all of your viewers on what not to do. Because I did used to always give sane financial advice, and I would point to successful investors and say, this is what you should emulate. Now I'm able to point to myself and say, here's what not to do. So, and I'm also hoping to pump that penny stock. So
We'll plug that a little bit later for everybody who's interested.
perfect, perfect.
You are unmuted too, because I was like, whoa, wait. In my last episode, for those of you guys who know, I accidentally kept the you on mute for a little bit. Sorry, Sarah. But yeah, so yeah, very excited that you're here to educate us all about what happened and where you're at, and really where your mind is heading to now with all this breadth of experience that you've gained over the last couple years. But yeah, so how about you just tell us about your story, right? We met in Gainesville, at a random Groove Shark party, so throw back to all the OG Groove Shark and Gainesville people here. And so if you're able to share a little bit more about really your time, like your background with your family, and even like in Gainesville, and then maybe how you got out to where you are today. If we out here in the Bay Area where we both currently live today, and
Sure.
maybe share a little bit more about that story and how you got here.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, born and raised in Gainesville. That was an interesting experience. I went to University of Florida, and because I decided I hadn't had enough of Gainesville after 20 some odd years. So got my major in computer engineering. And while I was in college, I ended up meeting up with a couple of my actually, like, some people that I'd gone to high school with. And we decided that we wanted to embark on some kind of startup venture together. And around that time, we met a couple of founders looking for some engineers. We were all engineers. And next thing you know, we're a year and a half into a startup venture that we all collectively destroyed, and decided to start another one. And together we spent another year and a half, 2 years on that, did some contract work, delivered a product, tried to raise funding for it. And once again, we destroyed that company as well. And But through that process, I met a lot of really great people that were doing a lot of cool things. A couple of which who had just gotten jobs at Google. And at the time, I was like so against working at a big corporation. I was like, no way am I going to just be a cog in the machine. You can't convince me. I'm going to be doing startups for the rest of my life. And they were both like, hey, maybe you should just give it a shot and see what it's like. And so I said, okay, fine, I'll try. And they referred me to Nest at Google, and I went and did the interviews, got in, and next thing you know, I spent about 3.5 years there, a little more than 3.5 years, and yeah, I was totally wrong about. I was partially wrong, partially right about the corporate life, and I I don't regret it at all. Got a lot of really great experience and saved money, learned a lot of financial discipline while I was there, but eventually decided the corporate life was no longer for me. I was approaching age 30, so I was kind of having like the 1/3 life crisis, whatever you call it, and decided I want to take some time off from work, do some traveling. And that's kind of the beginning of when my financial discipline, my frugality all just started to crumble. That was the first domino. And did that for about 8 months and then started doing freelance stuff. Um, and I did that up until just about 2 months ago, actually. And now I'm doing some personal projects, another little entrepreneurial venture, and also recently retired stock day trader. Um, and I can get into why I'm recently retired on that as soon as we want to get into the fun stuff. But yeah, so that's how I ended up out in San Francisco. And yeah,
So
here I am now.
I'll say, and again, for those of you guys that are watching us online, if you have any questions throughout this whole process, feel free to drop a comment in the chat, and we'll be watching those as well. Um, but I will say you kind of skimmed over a good amount of your entrepreneurial experience, specifically that I think is worth just mentioning. That you had some really unique, really cool startups that I think, again, timing is a big deal, and I think that they were great ideas, but again, just timing might not have been right, and sometimes you have a
Thank
great
you.
idea, it
Thank
might be
you.
a little early, but I think you're a little ahead of your time, if I don't say so myself, with with some
Thank
of
you.
them.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
was completely fishing for that, and
yeah,
you totally nailed it.
yeah. Shout out quinoa. Yeah, totally. But no, totally. And so yeah, I think right now, before we start getting into a number of these financial conversations, I'd really like to talk about really where you're at right now. Obviously, we joked at the beginning, and also you did share with us like kind of where you're at now, from startup entrepreneurial founder to big tech to um, to freelancer to now working on personal projects. Um, where do you see yourself continuing to go, right? Is it still like, where do you have like a certain plan for yourself, and where you see yourself in like 1, 3, 5 years ahead?
uh, I generally plan my life about 1 to 2 weeks in advance, maybe a month if I'm feeling very, uh, yeah, I don't know, if I'm feeling very, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm thinking in advance, but typically I kind of take it day to day. Uh, and career wise, I kind of think like, what are my goals right now? Is there anything I want to learn? Is there anything I don't like about what I'm doing currently? And with the freelance stuff, I was enjoying the work, um, but like rewinding to when I was at Google, part of the reason I quit that was because I felt like I was kind of pigeonholed in a specific role. I was doing Android app development, and I was kind of just feeling out of place because I'm an iPhone user. And I mean, Android's always been my forte. I know how to do it, but I I would prefer to work on something that is more relevant to what I use every day. And also, I felt like I wasn't being very productive. I wasn't doing my best work just because Google, big corporation, has a lot of kind of bureaucracy, a lot of politics, a lot of decisions being made all the time, projects getting started, canceled, restarted. And I literally went my last year at Google, I I worked on a project for like a month, then it would get canceled, and then another 2 months, and then they would change the priorities, and then next thing you know, we're working on something else, and it's just bouncing all over the place. And long story short, we would go like a year without actually delivering anything, and so it just didn't feel like I was doing my best work.
Mm,
Fast forward to doing the contract stuff, I felt much more creative control because it's a much smaller team. You know, sometimes it's just me and one other guy. Um, and you're working directly with the client. You're hearing about the business needs. You're seeing it as it gets adopted. And it was much more close to, it's a much more central role. And then I decided towards the end of that, my contracting stint, that I have a lot of different projects that I've kind of been mulling over the years, like bouncing around the back of my head, and I just never made the time to work on them. And uh, a couple of my two contract gigs both kind of abruptly wrapped up earlier this year because they were having some funding issues, and so I found myself suddenly with a lot of free time, and I was like, okay, now's the perfect time to jump into some personal projects. And so I basically set aside 3 weeks. I said, okay, I'm going to work on this project for 3 weeks. And if I can prove to myself that I can put in the work, then um, then I'll keep going with this project. If not, I'm going to throw this project out and move on with my life. And yes, today actually marks the day after that 3 week period concluded, and actually made some good progress. And it was even more fun and more rewarding than the contract work. Uh, but the obvious downside is it pays zero. So, or the pay is far down the road once we've actually shipped it. And so, yeah, it's all about trade-offs. The contract stuff I said was more rewarding, but it's kind of off and on. That faucet turns on and off. It's kind of outside your control. Depends on what the client wants to do. You're spending a decent amount of time sourcing leads and stuff, and then yeah, obviously with entrepreneurial stuff, there is absolutely no guarantee of getting paid ever. So it's a big risk. But luckily, I've kind of used what I saved from Google to fund my sporadic income lifestyle now. So yeah.
yeah, we have a comment here of like that TV show as well. You said a lot, and I think there's a lot to get into there, but I think he was referring to, yeah, Silicon Valley, where you were doing a lot of projects, starting, stopping, dead time, stuff that
Yeah.
was, yeah, not happening. But yeah, did you ever feel like they could have just put you up on the roof and just kept you on the books, but you weren't doing
A
it?
100%. Honestly, 100%. After I left, I was talking to one of my coworkers who was still there, and I said, "Hey, how are things going? Did you guys finally like get on track? Have you shipped anything?" He said, "Dude, literally, they canceled the project again, and they had nothing for us to work on. Us being like an entire organization, right? Like dozens and dozens of people." Uh, and he said, "So to keep us busy, they just had us build a fake app in order to like team build and like learn how to work together." I was just like, "Wow." That's how much money Google's making, where they could just pay a whole organization to work on nothing for like months on end. It's pretty
And
spectacular.
I can't imagine like the salaries, right? It's just incredible to just have just dead
Millions
space.
of dollars were being just shoveled into the furnace. It's crazy.
Yeah. So maybe tell us a little bit more about that like Silicon Valley life, right? So you didn't always live where you're living now. You lived all
Mhm.
across the Bay, including South Bay and now San Francisco. And maybe tell us about that lifestyle and the cost of living obviously is pretty high,
Sure.
but like maybe and also the culture.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so on the cost of living thing, that was kind of an interesting realization about the Bay Area, because whenever I was getting toward the end of, like, once we had decided we were going to turn down our startup quinoa back in Gainesville, I kind of sat down and I was like, okay, where do I want to move? I made a big list. I made a spreadsheet of all the factors that mattered to me, and I plotted out a bunch of cities that I was interested in and kind of rated them in each one of those groups. And the thing I always was hearing about San Francisco and the Bay Area was it's just so expensive, way too expensive, everything's super expensive, most expensive place in the country. And I was like very hesitant to come out here for that reason. What nobody told me was that the companies out here, especially if you work in tech, more than compensate for that increase in cost of living. So like between Gainesville and here, I would say my cost of living doubled or tripled, probably tripled. But my pay, like considering what I would have made in Gainesville in a similar role versus here, like 4 to 5x.
Hmm.
And so it was totally a great trade-off, right? And so um, even though it was crazy to be looking on Craigslist for apartments and seeing like $2,500 a month is like reasonable for a one bedroom,
Yeah.
uh, it all kind of balanced out in the end. Uh, Especially because like other things aren't that much more expensive. Like you have higher gas prices and stuff, I guess, but like energy costs are actually lower out here, I found, because most places don't have AC and it's not like 100 degrees all the time like in Florida. And yeah, I feel like you can still live pretty frugally. Like even now when I'm living in San Francisco, um, my overall living expenses, like including my mortgage, is something on the order of 60K, and it's way more than like the 15 or 20K I was spending in Gainesville, but it's not like super insane. And that's like including, I haven't exactly been living a super frugal lifestyle for the past few years. I've been doing a decent amount of travel. I pay for expensive meals in San Francisco, which is pretty much any meal in San Francisco. But yeah, it's doable. Especially in tech, um, it's totally doable. So, but yeah, I back to the discussion of like different living situations. So I started out in Mountain View near, it was pretty close to Google headquarters, and also Nest, which was in Palo Alto. And I was renting down there, paying 2,500 a month for a one bedroom, and um, I really liked it down there. It just didn't have a lot of stuff going on, like nightlife. My friends were kind of all in San Francisco or moving up to San Francisco, so eventually I decided I want to try that out. And I was looking at rent prices, and I'm seeing 3,000, 3,500. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Am I really about to pay 3,500 a month in rent? I mean, I feel like I could find a mortgage for that much maybe. And so I just decided to start looking. And right around that time, a one bedroom apartment popped up on on Zillow. And literally, like within a few weeks of making this decision to start looking for a place to potentially buy, uh, I feel like I was already making an offer. Like it all happened very, very quickly. I only looked at two places. Don't really recommend that, but this place just seemed like a good deal. It was like uh, reasonably priced for the Bay Area, I would say, um, and it was the right size for me. Like not too big, not too small. Good location. It was like a good compromise between commuting down to South Bay and like having access to the city. So yeah, just pulled the trigger on that, and I've been here ever since. So and I did manage to get that mortgage within the what I would have been paying in rent. And so now,
Wow.
like my whole philosophy with that, I mean, I guess with anybody who's buying a house is with rent, that's just money out the door. But with the mortgage, at least a portion of that is equity you're building. It's still your money. You get it back when you sell the property, and you get to take advantage of that growth. And so it's actually ended up being like the most economical way to live in the Bay Area, I would say, because I did get some property growth, maybe not in the past year. Might be a little property shrinkage, but at least I bought this place I think in 2017. So 2017 to 2019 were pretty good for this area in terms of property growth. And yeah, I don't really like to look at the prices anymore because 2020 was a bit of a doozy, but things are popping off again here. I do follow. I have some like Zillow save searches and stuff just to keep tabs on things, and
Yep.
places briefly were going for under ask, and now they're back to going for over ask again. And yeah, I would say things are getting back to normal around
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Crazy. It's I know obviously I know the South Bay life really well, and as you know, I'm now, up in the city, and I definitely took advantage of some of that the shrinkage that you've experienced through rent stuff, and yeah, it's definitely it's been an interesting place to live, especially going, as a young person living in the Bay Area. And then yeah, and then again, great idea looking for a place to live and actually making something reasonable within what you would have paid for rent, right? That's also really exciting. We're gonna get into maybe that house and the discussion around that shortly. Um, I think again for everybody watching, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. Feel free to ask them at any point. We'll try to do our best to get to them. And again, I appreciate everybody who's joined to watch. And then I also want to ask before we dive too much further is, I think what are some of your first thoughts around, like when you're thinking about your history, like what are some of your first like memories around money and spending and budgeting potentially?
Sure. Yeah. So for me, uh, I guess I've got a couple answers. There's like I can think way back. Uh, I have a very frugal father, and he's the kind of person who like he makes his dining decisions based on if he has a coupon or not. Like he is constantly hunting for deals. And growing up, when I got my first debit card and bank account, it was like a you know joint account with him, and and so he was able to see everything. And for years and years, I mean, I still actually have this account to this day. I've since gotten credit cards he cannot see, but ironically, yeah, at age 31, my dad could still technically see my main checking account. But yeah, so like all throughout high school and even into college, my dad was constantly hassling me about things that I would spend my money on. And it almost like instilled in me this like visceral pain about spending money because I knew like if I did anything remotely frivolous, I was going to get a phone call. Or when I got home, my dad was going to be like, "Hey, so I saw that you spent $12 at Taco Bell. They've got a value menu, right?" And I literally, for all the way up until my mid 20s, I would say like the act of spending money was painful for me, and so it made me extremely frugal. And so that's why I said in that bio, when I was at Google, I was just religiously shoveling money away because even though I was making like good money more than I had been making in the startup life by a long shot, I was still so used to thinking in that way. And so even at the peak of like my Google income, I'm like looking at the tiniest little ways to cut costs at my house, like crazy things, like seeing how long I could go without using my heater during the winter. I was like sleeping in my jacket and stuff, like just crazy
Wow.
stuff. And And yeah, just seeing how low I like was obsessed with these frugality blogs like Mr. Money Mustache and like all these, fire movement people like retiring early because they got their living expenses down to like $10,000 a year, and now they can just retire anytime because it's so cheap to exist. And yeah, it wasn't until I discovered like traveling and when I first started car shopping, those two things put two major dents in my frugality. There's no, I mean, there are cheap ways to travel, but my first trip internationally was to Switzerland. If you know anything about Switzerland, you know it is not a cheap place in any way, shape, or form. I paid $30 for a cheeseburger. Uh, it's very expensive.
Wow.
And so I remember going on a trip there and spending like, you know, $2,000 or something for my trip. And to me, that was like an unfathomable amount of money to spend on anything.
For how long?
And for like 10 days,
Wow, okay.
um,
Yeah, wow.
which is actually not too bad in hindsight. Like you could do worse. And so that kind of started putting cracks in my frugality because what I started noticing was, oh, if I do that, like nothing about my life changes if I spend that money, other than like maybe my wealth front doesn't go up as high.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know, it's a dangerous thing to realize because then the frugality starts, you start realizing like, oh wait, no, I don't have to
Hmm.
be that frugal. Um, and so next thing you know, once I quit Google and had no income and still saw that like as I spent money, it wasn't, you know, my life wasn't in shambles. It that was like the final nail in the coffin. And that's how I'm here now, $10,000 in penny stocks and unemployed.
What?
Um,
Yeah, I don't know if you're gonna say
so,
something more. All right.
uh,
What were some of the frugal tips and tricks that you used that you remember that actually, and some of them do you still abide by? And also, you
yeah,
mentioned some of the like, interesting ones where you like sitting in your jacket to say, see how long you go without your heater. Do you have any more, again, of both of ones you still might follow and ones that you're still like, that you remember being like some of the more extreme examples?
yeah, I think so. My entire financial philosophy, uh, like while I was working at Google, really was based on like a bunch of those frugality blogs I was reading, which I'll get into some of those things in a bit, and then that book, A Random Walk Down Wall Street. Like I said that as a joke, but it's totally not a joke. I do have that book on my coffee table. Great book. If you take anything from this, go read that book uh, because it literally like they just sum it up so well. Um, why you should diversify, like they took what I was expecting to be an extremely complicated subject, which is investing. And I think a lot of people kind of feel that way, like it's this mysterious way to just make money out of nothing. They took this subject of investing and simplified it down to something that's actually really, really digestible and understandable and like surprisingly easy to do. And like the author actually sits on the board of Wealthfront, which is where I have put most of my money because basically Wealthfront, I'm going to plug Wealthfront right now. I'm going to send out
Yeah,
my
please
referral link
do.
to everybody watching.
Yeah, it's in the comments. I beat you.
Yeah. So yeah, Wealthfront is just an automated, they automate all of the like smart financial things you should do with your money. So you don't have to think about it and do it yourself. Um, so while I was at Google, I was just shoveling money into there. And then, yeah, in terms of frugality, it was really about just building a habit of being mindful of your spending and like understanding where the money's going, what are your biggest cost factors, and getting in kind of a routine of like reevaluating your financial situation, making sure like I shop for insurance probably like once or twice a year, like car
Really?
insurance, because I find that sometimes I'm just way overpaying. Like that whole Geico thing is true. Save
15 minutes left.
50% or more, or 15 minutes or less, whatever it is. Like I have been in that situation before, and like there are so many weird arbitrary things that certain insurance companies charge you extra for. Like when I moved to San Francisco, like the same it was like the same summer that I moved to San Francisco, I also got a speeding ticket going like 85 plus and a 55 or something. And my insurance literally doubled uh, with in my next like pay period. I was like, what the heck is going on? And I ended up shopping around and I found that even with that ticket, even living in San Francisco where like people's windshields get smashed all the time, I was able to get cheaper car insurance just by shopping around. And I had just kind of like been lazy and not thought about it for a while. And so now like I go get quotes every so often, and almost always I knock like $100 off my 6 month premium.
Wow.
And
Nice.
yeah, so there's that. There's yeah, just the whole mindfulness thing. Like I remember that whole Mr. Money Mustache blog. I don't know if you've heard of this guy, but he's all about retiring early. And yeah, he kind of like really drills the point of like understanding that a lot of the things we do day to day and take for granted are expenses, right? Like every time you get in your car and take a trip somewhere, that's an expense. So I started biking to work. I started biking to the store sometimes, started
Hmm.
walking places. Um, yeah, it's just about like, yeah, being mindful of all those little things you do day to day. Every time you flip on your heater, that's an expense. Every time you obviously go out to eat, that's a huge expense. And as long as you kind of are mindful each time you're spending money on these things, uh, you can kind of create a habit of like I said, almost making it painful to spend the money. I don't like putting it that way because a big criticism I've seen of frugal lifestyle is like you got to live a little,
Hmm.
spend money, that can make you happy, like spend money on a nice dinner or whatever. And
Right.
that's true. I totally agree. But what I found in living a frugal lifestyle is there are a lot of things you can do to cut back on expenses and not sacrifice lifestyle at all. And sometimes it can even be fun, like a fun and interesting challenge to see how low you can get your expenses to go. And then the earlier you do that in your life, the more money you save, like that compounds over time. And it just creates this huge self-fulfilling snowball effect. And that's where I say I'm a Buffett disciple. I listen to Warren Buffett's entire director's cut unabridged biography on Audible. It's like 42 hours. Know every single thing that man has ever done. And he's all about that. It was the book's called The Snowball because it's about compound growth and just making smart decisions with your money, being rational, being reasonable over a very long period of time. Like you're guaranteed to win pretty much.
Yeah. Um, in order to also see how much you're spending and being frugal, uh, have you used any apps to track that as well?
I've tried like Mint and that kind of stuff. Um, I haven't found like for me, it's been a lot of work to go through because a lot of times it's like, oh, we don't know what to categorize this expense as. You got to go through and categorize everything. And sometimes it won't work with a certain bank account or whatever. I'm sure they've worked a lot of those kinks out now. But for me, I never found that budgeting worked for me because it was too manual of a process. You're always having to think about your budget. You're having to set up this whole data flow situation where you set the numbers, which how do you come up with the numbers? Well, you got to do all kinds of calculations to see what is a reasonable amount of money to spend on transportation and dining out or whatever. And then you got to pipe all the data in from your bank accounts to all that stuff. And uh, it just was hard to stick with it. For me, what has always worked is these habits, like creating the habit of noticing when you're spending money, noticing what you're spending money on. And you don't have to know every single day necessarily what your spending is, as long as like you can go in even once every 6 months or so and just look at your past 6 months of spending. And a lot of times things will jump out at you that you didn't even think of, like, oh, I haven't used that subscription in a while. Like, why do I even pay for that? Cancel that. Oh, my insurance rate has gone up a bunch every month over the past 6 months. Like, maybe I should shop around for that. Uh, all that kind of stuff. And you can kind of sit down and have these like financial fitness spring cleaning sessions where you kind of cancel things you're not using, see if you can turn things down. If you see you're like spending a ton of money, like in 2019, I was spending so much money on dining out. I was like, oh my gosh, like it was my number one expense under living expenses, like by a long shot. And I was like, this is crazy. I should just be mindful of going out to eat. I stopped using Uber Eats because, paying $30 for a chicken sandwich doesn't make sense. Like
Yeah,
stuff like that. I don't know. It
yeah,
really is. I keep saying this mindfulness word, but that for me, that's what it's about, is just knowing and kind of catching yourself in the act of doing the thing that's contributing to those big spending buckets, and just creating a little bit of friction in that.
yeah. No, yeah, I personally, there's a lot of comments here as well, and I tend to, I think you probably influenced me a lot back when a couple years ago when we first spoke. I actually bought a Random Walk Down Wall Street on Audible, and haven't necessarily
Nice.
listened to it yet, but it's in my to-do list. And but if I knew you have it on your coffee table, it would have been like, I just probably would ask you.
There's a
But
way you could save money, right? That
yeah,
would have saved you one whole Audible credit
one
if I
whole
had told
Audible
you.
credit. I'm really bad with Audible. I actually have too many credits that like, and
No,
I
I
just
know. I've been there. That was one of the subscriptions that I
I need to stop
noticed
that.
in my spring
Hmm.
cleaning, and I canceled it because I had all these books in my backlog and I wasn't listening to them. So
But you don't you lose the credits though. You need to actually just get all the books then
no,
cancel.
I
Yeah,
spent them all, but I still
yeah.
have like 50 hours worth of books to listen to.
Same. So we have a nice friendly face in the comments section. I'm not sure if you're tracking that, but we actually you have a potential job offer or referral in the chat here.
The whole reason I'm doing this, man. I'm putting it out there that I'm unemployed, I'm broke. I was gonna plug my OnlyFans later,
Yeah.
the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm sure you might pick up some people's and perk some people's interest up from that. So that's great. There's also
And I
some
see Tony on there. I
yeah.
see Tony.
Tony's
Subscribe to the OnlyFans, Tony.
and he also recommended Personal Capital too if you haven't checked that out. So yeah, I haven't used Personal Capital, but I have yeah, I hear good things as well. But how about we dive in, dude, and go
Do
into
it.
some of the numbers. You mentioned your, uh, yeah, let's just dive in. There's like, yep, join us. All right. On OnlyFans? Is that where you want us to join you, Tony? Is that
Yeah.
or?
Tony, do you work at OnlyFans now?
All right, yeah, let's do this. So we'll dive into your monthly budget first. That's what I have up here already. And for those of you guys that don't usually, if this is your first time watching one of our budget breakdowns, here again you have a nice pie chart that outlines the budget that is given to us by our wonderful guests. And so here we have Blake's monthly budget, and we also put it into percentages as well for the categories that we're going to be walking through so everybody's able to kind of see again how that fits in comparison to your own personal finances and your own personal budget to see how it's allocated. And so, Blake, if you can see this, maybe if you want to walk us through, give us the overview of your budget breakdown.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I have to look at this because I'm pretty unaware of my spending lately, and so this was actually a good exercise making this for you because it was a good check-in. Last time I did this was probably in 2019 because I was just curious. Like that was the year I quit Google and I did a ton of traveling, and I was just curious to see like what my spending was. And
Interesting.
so the good news is that number has come down substantially. Somehow I still managed to spend $500 a month on food and drinks in the middle of a pandemic when all food and drink establishments are closed. Don't know. I don't know how I do it. Probably a lot of Uber Eats and DoorDash, but But yeah, okay. So living expense, obviously the number one. I mean, living in the Bay Area, that's pretty unavoidable. I don't know how you could get that to not be number one without just spending an exorbitant amount on other things. But that 3,000 includes my mortgage, property tax, HOA dues, and maybe even like like homeowners insurance. So that's kind of like the holistic number. So I compare that with, say, like paying rent, and obviously the benefit of the mortgage is again that a portion of that is equity. You're still losing. Like before I bought a house, I thought, like, oh, most of it except the mortgage interest is all my money, but I didn't think about property tax, HOA dues, maintenance, building insurance, all that kind of stuff. But I'd say for San Francisco, 3,000 a month is is pretty okay. Food and drinks, yeah, 500. I That's pretty easy to get to in San Francisco. I mean, every time you go out, especially like I've got a girlfriend, you go out to dinner, you pay for the meal, you guys get a couple of drinks. It's real easy to hit 100 plus on a single meal, even if you're at a place that's $2 signs. So like, I mean, at that rate, that could be 3 or 4 meals in a month, which doesn't sound like that much, but still $500 a month. That sounds like a lot. That's like
Yeah.
rent back in Gainesville.
Yep. Yep.
Uh, Travel came down a decent amount, obviously, because of everything going on, but still took I'm fully vaccinated now, took a trip back to Gainesville, um, flew out to Colorado recently. Normally that number in a non-pandemic year is a decent amount higher. Although thanks to the Chase Sapphire Reserve and those points, I get a lot of free flights, which is really nice. Um,
Nice.
Health insurance, another downside of not working at like not being full-time employed at a company. Uh, when I quit Google, like they had really great health insurance, and I was paying literally $0 a month, and they also like funded an HSA account for me. And then when I quit, they said, "Hey, California has this program where you can continue your work insurance, keep everything the same. All you got to do is pay $900 a month." And I was like, "Ooh, no, 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 I'm not doing that." So I got on the marketplace, started shopping around, and because I was 29 at the time, I qualified for like the young people, nothing ever happens, catastrophic insurance plan is what they call it. Basically, like you pay for everything except like a annual checkup. And if something really terrible happens, we got your back, but everything else is on you. And that was like $200, a little more than that. But now I'm an old man. I hit 30. They kicked me off that plan, and now I pay 380 a month. It's substantial. Um, then yeah, everything else. I mean, that grocery bill is decently low, but it's because that food and drink bill is pretty high. I could probably this is where like if I was still the maximum frugal person that I once was, I would say, uh, you know, how many beans and rice meals can I eat a month for like, you know, $1 a day to get rid of half of that food and drinks budget or more, and what are these $70 worth of subscriptions that I'm paying for? Do I really need all that stuff? Um, but yeah, I'm in my current state, having lived both an extremely frugal and an extremely frivolous lifestyle. I feel like I've brought balance to the force, and I'm happy with this number currently, even though I'm without income at the moment. It's manageable. This is manageable for me.
Yeah. And so yes, the food and drinks are purely for going out. Purely, it's not, yeah, so it's restaurant dining slash bars. Um,
Yep.
and then yeah, and then transportation, is that include your any car payments and and insurance, or is that everything?
Yeah, that's yeah, registration, insurance.
Illustration.
Um, luckily, so I have a Tesla, and I lucked into a deal where I get free supercharging for life as long as I have that Tesla, and I'm going to use that. I'm going to pay for that car with free charging.
Yeah.
All I have to do is drive it 600,000 miles. I'll pay for the whole thing. But yeah, so that actually helps a decent amount with that transportation cost because I mean, gas that adds up. Um,
Yeah. And then
but yeah, there's what else? Like, not a lot of maintenance with the electric car, but I still have to do like I got a new set of tires on it, and then immediately ran over a giant nail. Uh,
nice.
what else? I think that's about it. No oil changes, no none of that kind of stuff. So
Tell us more about the miscellaneous that you have here for $100. Is that like,
that one's just my catch-all. I don't even really know. I can't even remember what I put in there.
yeah,
Just stuff that didn't fit into the other categories.
gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, man. And again, if people are watching live, feel free to comment. And if you guys are watching later on YouTube and or Facebook or wherever, feel free to ask questions, and we'll try to get back to you guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, again,
I see Tony's telling me to Airbnb my extra room, and I'm saying, what ex? Who are we talking about? Extra room? My bedroom? I'm living in my living room now. I might have to.
yeah, I will say the living room has a great view. It's a good, solid.
I know people who have done it. When times got tough, rent
Yeah.
the bedroom out.
And so yeah, and what are some of the tricks that I think he's LOL. Uh, with some of these that you're going at, food and drinks obviously is number two here. Between groceries and eating out, are there being in the Bay Area obviously doesn't help, right? But comparing that to places like Gainesville, I mean, I guess outside of the places in games where you can get like $2 doubles and whatnot,
hmm
what are some of the like what do you say the average meal out here is, uh, and or like what dollar sign restaurants would those be at, right? Like at like a cheaper meal here outside of In-N-Out as an example,
Yeah.
just yeah,
Ah, yeah, like a $1 sign restaurant in San Francisco. It's hard to come by without going to like Popeyes or something, but they do exist. I just was looking at there's a Turkish restaurant. I forget exactly where. It's like kind of at the intersection of like Mission and Soma and like Dog Patch, all that stuff. Called like Saffron something, and it's $1 sign. It has like 4.8 stars, 2,000 reviews. I
nice,
haven't eaten there. I really want to go, but yeah, they have plenty of stuff that's less than $10, which is like unheard of. Um, it's a weird thing about San Francisco because, like, I mean, it kind of makes sense, but then you think about a place like New York, where even though it's super expensive, you can still find like really cheap food around. Like, you could get dim sum like real cheap, less than $10. You can get a little, a dollar slice of pizza. It's not like going to be the greatest food in the world, but you can get like delicious food for really cheap there. I don't notice that as much in San Francisco. Like, maybe you go into the Mission, get yourself a burrito, but I
right?
feel like that's still running you like $12. So yeah, I mean, if you're trying to be frugal in San Francisco, dining out is not the move. Tony says ramen.
Ramen,
Now, if you're making ramen, see, like that'd be a good skill. Learn how to like make. I've thought about doing this. Like, write down all of the delicious things I love to go eat out. Learn how to make them at home and just save like 50% or eight. With ramen, you'd be saving like 90%.
90%,
If you
yeah.
go to like a bougie ramen restaurant, you could pay like $15 for a bowl of ramen.
And you also have the ramen where it's just like pennies where you can just put it
Oh
in
yeah,
hot
top
water
ramen,
and
baby.
yeah, yeah. I used to know people who
The good
used to
stuff.
buy that by the bar and just eat it rough. Like no, obviously buy it by the bar,
Yeah,
like
right.
just hard. It wouldn't even just it'd be like crackers or something, just eat it just without
I have
boiling.
never tried that. That's interesting.
It
No,
was
I've not heard
interesting.
that one
I
before.
the strange things you'll see at a summer camp, where it's just like
That's
that's
hilarious.
really
That's
where it
something that
was.
my extreme frugal self would have done because like he both wanted to save tons of money and did not know how to cook. So like this, the trouble of having to even microwave water to put that ramen in would have been too much.
Did
That's
you
funny.
have you said that obviously budgeting isn't necessarily your cup of tea, but you know, did you have a budget even when you were frugal at all, or you just kind of just pained you every time, just
No,
whenever you
because
made
it
it?
was like my goal was to just make it the lowest number possible. So the budget was irrelevant. It was like I just need to eliminate all expenses that are unnecessary. And once you've done that, then you've achieved perfection.
Yeah.
uh, so yeah, I never really did it that way. What I've done, I mean, I feel I should preface this by saying I'm in a privileged position to be able to like not worry about budgeting, but I just will do these kind of financial check-ins, and if there's like when I decided to quit Google, I kind of sat down, looked at my finances, and thought like, how much runway do I have? What's my burn rate? How much can I bring this down? What amount of time can I take off from work before it becomes an issue? And just being aware of those things was really helpful because it made it a lot easier to quit and have peace of mind. Because like at first, I was kind of terrified by that prospect and the idea of just like burning savings. But
Right.
but yeah, when I knew that I was going to quit, I just started saving cash and having that on hand, so I didn't have to start digging into savings or anything.
Right.
So
Yeah. And then when you're big traveler, uh, where do you usually go? Like, what's your strategy to find flights and good deals um,
yeah.
and what kind of traveler are you as well, right? Like hostels, hotels, and
Yes. So that I haven't actually. I did all of like the vast majority of the traveling I've ever done all within the year of 2019. Because like up until that point, I hadn't really traveled much, and I was kind of trying to make up for that time that I had spent not traveling. And so um, I was trying not to let price be a big factor. And so, but at the same time, I didn't want to blow through my entire travel budget. I had like a set fixed amount of money that was in my checking account, and my rough goal was as soon as that money was all gone, that was when my travel phase was done. And so I wanted to make that last. And so I I didn't really care where I went necessarily. I knew I wanted to go to Europe, but I didn't have anything specific in mind. And so I did kind of plan my trip uh, around cost at first. I looked for what's the cheapest flight to get over to Europe, and I found a nonstop flight from New York to Madrid for like $250. I was like,
nice.
holy crap! Like I can get to Europe for only $250. It cost me more to get to Gainesville.
Yeah.
So booked that one way and just started booking hostels as needed. And I started out doing the hostel life. I I was getting like the upscale hostels, like $40 a night, not the 20 or $10 a night things. These were like the hostels that have the restaurant and the bar built in, and they have like really cool events all the time. And uh, but you're still like in a room with 8 people. Um, did that for a while. I was in Europe for a couple months, and toward month 2, I was like getting real tired of the hostel life, like because I'm there. I'm 29 years old, and I'm hanging out with a bunch of like 22-year-old like gap year people, or like I guess like 18-year-old gap year people, and like 22-year-old
Mm.
just graduated college. I'm not ready to do a job yet, and like I was struggling to relate to this crowd. Like I was trying to hang, and it was destroying my liver in the process. But at a certain point, I was just like, okay, I can't like. I don't want to do the hostel thing anymore. So I started booking Airbnbs and hotels. That really upped the burn rate on that. And that coincided with the time when I was like slowly making my way north in Europe. So it started in Spain. I actually no, I made two separate trips. The second time I started in Paris, kind of made my way up to Belgium and then up to like Amsterdam. And the further north you go, the more expensive it gets. Next thing you know, I'm in Scandinavia. I'm like in Norway. Everything's like ridiculously expensive. Then I go to Iceland and it's like just as expensive for everything. Like a hostel there, I was staying at these like, it was kind of like a, not quite a hostel, not quite a hotel. Like there were some communal spaces, but you had a private bedroom. And it's like 120 a night for one person.
Mm.
And every meal's like 25, $30. So yeah, toward the end of my trip, I was burning through money real fast. And then I made a trip to Japan. And everybody says Japan's expensive. And it's not expensive. I found it to be expensive not because the individual items were very pricey, but because you just want to spend all of your money when you're in Japan. Like everything's so amazing. You're just like, please take more of my money. So yeah, by the time I was planning on traveling for like a year, but between Scandinavia and Japan, my travel budget was burned through in like 6 months. And yeah, there are ways to do it super cheap. I did it for a bit. Uh, if your hostels are a great way to meet people, super cheap way to travel. They're cool. I just I got tired of it at a certain point, so got a little too bougie for my own good. But
So, did you? Yeah, and I think it's awesome with Japan. Obviously, you just want all the street food, all the delicious stuff, all the arts, the entertainment, and everywhere I can.
everything.
I mean,
Hmm.
I haven't been to Europe yet, but I have been to a lot of the other places you mentioned. Yeah, 100%. Did you ever stay in one of those capsule hotels?
Nah, never did. I've heard
Yeah,
about them though.
yeah.
So
And then, um, do you actually? Are you pretty much like a Google Flights guy too, or use like other things like Skyscanner
yeah,
or?
no, I just use Google Flights. I really like the explore destinations feature where you can basically say like, I mean, this really only works if you have a really flexible schedule,
Right.
which I did once I quit my job. And so you could just say like, hey, I want to take a trip in the next 3 months. Let me see what nonstop flights I can get. You can find some amazing deals that way. Like flights to Europe. I don't think I've ever paid a ton for a flight to Europe. And even my flight to Japan was basically free just because I lucked into like I was flying to Mexico City at one point and the flight was overbooked. And they did one of those things where it's like,
Mm.
hey, anybody want to give up your seat? And I kept waiting and they kept upping the flight voucher amount. First it was 250, then it was 500, and then it was 750. And I go up and I say, would you do 1,000? And right about that time, a guy comes up to claim the 750, but it was too late and they gave me the 1,000. So then I just used that on my Japan flight, basically got a free flight. So
Wow.
there's a little frugality tip for you.
Wow.
Never
Wow.
need to be anywhere, so you can always take those deals when you're at the airport.
Wow. Wow. It's happened to me randomly when I was like going to Boston for school, flying back and forth from California, where
Mhm.
they've done that like exactly how you're talking about, but that also those coupons usually last a year. There's an expiration date
Uh-huh.
to use most
There
of
are, yeah,
them.
yeah.
Uh,
Hmm.
and then the pandemic hit.
Uh,
And so,
hey, pro tip. Okay, if a flight voucher expires, especially with everything that's been going on, you can call them and say like, "Hey, there was no way I could use it." I don't know if you've done this already. I
it,
did it with American, and this was kind of funny. I had canceled a flight. This was actually pre-pandemic. I canceled a flight. It was basic economy, no refunds, and uh, I forgot about that. And then fast forward to a couple weeks ago, I'm like on American's website and I see this flight voucher I have has expired from 2019. I'm like, what was that? Oh, that's maybe I should call them and see what's going on. So I called them up and I'm like, hey, I couldn't use that flight voucher. The pandemic happened. Like, can I get it back? And they look into it and they're like, actually, you canceled a basic economy flight. Like, you were never supposed to have a flight voucher, but we'll go ahead and give it to you. I'm like, oh, okay, that works for
Nice.
me. So then
Nice.
I always thought when you call an airline about something like that, they're just going to be like, nope, sorry. Like, we have the terms. If it expires, it expires. Like, we do not care. Like, we're not going to help you at all. But they were super accommodating.
You gotta take your shot. Take your shot.
Yeah, for
Nice.
sure.
And yeah, and so how about we kind of break into some of like the shopping specifically? Is there any, I mean, I know this is just for the 1 month, but how do you categorize shopping? Like what any specific things that
Yeah,
you
sure.
usually buy that might be more normal than not?
Yeah. And while I answer this question, I'm going to adjust the lighting. I'm realizing that the sun is setting in the middle of our interview here.
Yeah,
So I'm
no
going to
worries.
become a black figure any moment now. So shopping
Yeah,
for
and so
me is primarily um, Amazon, right? It's all,
you can
it's
wait until
mostly
you
Amazon
sit.
stuff.
You can wait to
I
sit back
know.
down. Yeah.
I'm just the stonks guy now.
That's the meme of me
Little
just talking to a ticker board from the meme
you,
ticker board.
you need to have like one of those little uh, technical
Guess.
difficulties buttons that you
Yeah.
can mash where it like plays the little elevator music.
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm being interrogated. Um, okay, a little better.
Yeah.
So yeah, Amazon. I just stuff I use around the house, different miscellaneous things. I do a little bit of like clothes shopping every so often. It yeah, it's a pretty mixed bag of different things. I don't do a ton of shopping. Um, like that's another frugality tip. Just don't have any interest in owning things. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
Easier said than done, but yeah, like I probably shop for clothes like once every 2 years. Whenever my old sweaters and t-shirts are getting super ratty and they've shrunk to like extra small. I'm like I should probably replace these.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you've seen me wear the same stuff for an extended period of time, so yeah,
dude,
I relate. I relate.
minimalist style is very helpful for
Yeah.
frugality for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And again, for the people who are watching online, again, if you have any questions on any of this, feel free to ask live. I think we do have Naaman who commented here saying, "What's up?" I'm not sure if you're friends with him, but it seems like I think he might. I feel like I met him once or a couple times. Sorry, if this is my friend. It's been a minute, but yeah, I'm not on my own Facebook here. But what's up, dude? Thanks for joining. And so, is there anything before we go to the net assets conversation? Oh, hell yeah. Sorry, dude. Dude, cyber power. Dude, I mean, pandemic. Sorry. We have to reconnect, man. Yeah, holy crap. So, co- yeah, conferences, like it was, we met in Florida actually. At
Oh, nice.
a lot of retail conferences and events. He's down in LA. How you doing, dude? We gotta catch up soon, dude. Sorry, your name. It's been a while since we've talked, dude. A lot to catch up on. Yeah, dude. Hell yeah.
So did you watch the SNL with Elon Musk this past weekend?
I saw a couple of the highlights.
There was that sketch about like post-pandemic conversations, and everybody
Ooh.
was like, "Who is this person? When have I met this person?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So funny.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's like, yeah, yeah, carry on. It's funny and happens all the time. Appreciate the understanding, man. I'll reach out. We gotta connect. I have the cyber power tank tops and shirts and stuff. I'm like, yeah, this is cool. All right. Anyway, I'll stop pandering. Thanks for joining, dude. Appreciate you. Um, so what we're about to do next, again, is dive into some of your net assets, and we'll start talking about really the Wall Street bets conversations and stories that you have
Hmm.
ready, because that is something that's exciting to talk about, and I know that you have probably even more stuff to discuss here.
Yes, for sure. So let's take a look here. Pull
Yeah.
it up, man. Do it.
So, all right. So here we have your net assets, and I just put in percentages. Obviously, we don't have to put out any too much information here. Uh, but you know, obviously, I don't know. You want to walk us through that and kind of give us your spiel and how you divvy it up?
Yeah, for sure. So let me pull this picture up real quick. Yeah, so stocks, obviously, I mean, you see the background here.
Yeah.
Stocks, uh, it is the foundation of any good portfolio. And yeah, the way this is kind of split out, you don't really see the different accounts and different, brokerages that it's going into. The vast majority of my investments are split between um, Wealthfront, which for people who don't know, Wealthfront is a robo advisor. It's like Betterment. I think like Charles Schwab has. I think a lot of the uh, big brokerages have them now. In a nutshell, you put money in, you tell them how much risk, like what your risk tolerance is, and they just put it in all of the places it needs to be. And so when I was at Google, I had my 401k, which was in one of those like target retirement funds that is under the hood, just like, 80% stocks, 20% bonds, something like that. And then all of the rest, I just shoveled into my Wealthfront, and my risk tolerance on there is like maxed out. So they're putting the vast majority of that into U.S. stocks, foreign stocks, emerging market stocks, all that kind of stuff. Um, and then real estate is most of that is home equity, so be paying off my mortgage, and then a little bit of that is Wealthfront. When you have a like an IRA or any kind of retirement account with Wealthfront, they'll put some of your funds into real estate investment trusts, the REITs,
Yeah. Wow.
which is basically just like real estate turned into an ETF that you can trade. And I think the reason that they put that only in retirement accounts is because they generate a lot of income, and normally that would be taxed with income tax in a normal brokerage. But if you're in a retirement account, it's not. So they save it for that. Um, the cash is checking. It's the little bit that like Wealthfront keeps in cash to do all their little fancy
The cash account.
tax loss harvesting, and like, yeah, I also have a cash account with them. Um, and then other, what was other? Just like miscellaneous weird investment vehicles that I just couldn't classify. I forget what I even had in there. Probably just weird stuff that wasn't really a stock, wasn't really a bond. I think like Wealthfront put some money in like in tips like treasuries, which I guess you could say is a bond maybe. And then yeah, bonds really low, 3.5. They don't really pay out at all these days. I think like if you read a random walk down Wall Street, they recommend a much higher allocation of bonds, because the idea being like you could basically reduce your risk without cutting into your gains a proportional amount. It's almost like risk-free uh, growth when you have the right bond stock allocation. But I think that's kind of fallen out of favor just because bond yields have gone down so much with like just the way the economy's been working recently. And then crypto, I decided this year actually, after like Tesla got in on it, Square was getting in on it, like all these companies that have like a lot to lose were getting in on it. I said, okay, this is worth a second look. Like maybe there's something to this crypto stuff, because up until like I thought crypto was just a total joke. It's like Bitcoin, like it's worthless. It's based on nothing. It's like these people are just speculating. It's literally just a pyramid scheme. And now big companies are in on that pyramid scheme. To me, that gives it a little more credibility. So I decided like 2% was enough to allocate to crypto because that's kind of what these
Hmm.
companies were doing. And I had heard like even established like financial organizations and like big names in the finance world saying like a 2% allocation is a reasonable crypto allocation. So I said, all right, if I lost it all, 2% of my net worth, it would not be great, but I'm not going to like, it's not going to change my life.
Right.
But if, it all goes to the moon and 10x's, then that makes a big difference to the bottom line. So, and if it just kind of grows a little bit, outperforms stocks or whatever, like that's just a nice little additional growth. So I
Right.
have, initially it was all Bitcoin. It was like, a, it was actually half Bitcoin and half just like a stable coin. And I had it all in BlockFi, which you were so kind to introduce me to.
Links in the
Uh,
description.
it's good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish they would fix their app, but I hate having to like, I don't know about if it happens on Android, but on iOS, they don't save your username and password. They
No,
make you log
it's
in every
every
time.
time. Yeah, that's the worst.
What are they doing?
Yeah, yeah,
I
it
might
really
get a
is.
job there just to fix that and then quit.
It really is
But
a pain, a huge pain point. Huge pain point.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I was 50-50 on the Gemini dollars and then Bitcoin. And then a buddy of mine was like just harassing me about Ethereum, saying like Ethereum, we got to get in on Ethereum. And I was like, okay, it's the second biggest one. Uh, it seems to have a lot more practical applications. They seem to be working on the efficiency issues. Like Bitcoin has some technical limitations that make me skeptical of it as an engineer. Ethereum seemed to at least be trying to address those. And so I was like, okay, I'll get in on some Ethereum. And then obviously like that just went crazy.
Yeah,
I got in at like 2,200 and now it's like 4,000. I didn't put that much in though. Um,
but that
so
20
yeah,
bucks, man.
yeah, right, right. I mean, yeah, I'm down to talk about like what this translates to in overall dollars. Um, I sent all that information to you, I think.
Yeah,
Uh, Total net assets 1 million, and that the reason I want to talk about it is just because like the amount does affect kind of like how you think about these allocations because like you said 1.5% might be $20 to somebody, might be $2,000 to somebody, might be 200,000 to somebody who's got a lot of money.
yeah,
And even though the percentages are the same, like I don't know, I feel like the practical outcome of having, like I think if I had 1/10 as much money I might not put any money in crypto just because uh, I don't know if it would impact my day-to-day life, but uh, right now I have 15,000 in crypto, and between like the growth from BlockFi interest, like it's real income. I've already made like 200 bucks off of that interest, and that's paying for that subscriptions category from
yeah.
earlier. Like
Right, right, right.
it's nice. So, and it also is important to understand like when I tell people that I have thousands of dollars of crypto, a lot of people would be like, "You idiot! What the hell are you doing, man? That's like fake money." But if you say you've got like 1 or 2% in crypto, like it's a lot safer, right? As much as I made myself sound like a financially irresponsible idiot in the bio, like I have at least adhered to my one principle from the rent. I think there's a specific line in A Random Walk Down Wall Street where they say, like, the whole premise of the book is you're not going to beat the market, don't even try. And they have like a little caveat where they're like, we know you're going to try because you're dumb. Like, just only risk what you're willing to lose. And I've held true to that. So uh, I've lost a lot of money on that penny stock, but at the end of the day, even though it's real money and I could have used that on many other things, it's not money that I couldn't afford to lose. So I think that's important for people to keep in mind, especially given like how crazy like retail involvement in stock trading has become. It's gotten, I mean, this
Crazy.
is unprecedented. It's crazy. It's
Yeah.
funny, but it's crazy.
So, so yeah, we have some comments here. Obviously, what crypto you basically said you're split between Bitcoin and Ethereum and stablecoin, which would be like a GUSD probably in BlockFi.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Hmm.
BlockFi. Uh, I was just talking about the other day. It's just like the interest rates on that are amazing for now. I mean, there are obviously people who are in the space are like it's nothing, but like 8.6% on stablecoin, just like cash, and then put it back into some things that you're kind of on the edge about. It would make sense for the average person,
Hmm.
especially if you could just convert it right back into stablecoin at the end of the day, because then it's just cash you could just
Right.
take back out. And then yeah, it seems like Tony's also into crypto and probably got it. Yeah, he got in when Doge was probably like half a penny and seems to be doing pretty well right now. Um, and then Naman was like saying, yeah, I don't know. Have you looked into any of the? It sounds obviously like you looked into the background behind Bitcoin and Ethereum a little bit based off what your friend was telling you, but like the difficulty factor to mine or produce. Have you looked into any of like the white papers as well? Is there anything that you've done research wise that you've done? I mean, I'll be honest, like
Yeah.
yeah,
I would like to do more research because I really do want to understand like the way I got into crypto. Because I mean, I've had people bringing it up for a while. I've seen it in the news, and I've always just thought like, yeah, it's overhyped. What really got me on board was actually like I started out um, so this year with the whole like hype of Wall Street bets. Like I've been following Wall Street bets for a bit, but finally this year, after seeing like so many people make a ton of money, lose a ton of money, I was seeing all these people doing options trading, and I was like, this sounds really interesting. I want to know more about how this works. It seems like you could make bets, like you could basically make more interesting bets about stocks with options, and so I learned how to basically bet against companies through either buying puts, selling calls, and uh, and I was just like, okay, it's hard to predict when a stock is going to shoot up to the moon, like GameStop or AMC or whatever. It's much easier to tell when a stock is going to tank. And so I got this bright idea that I was going to make a huge bet against the Bitcoin mining companies like Marathon and Riot because their valuations were like 5 billion market cap, 6 billion market cap. And these companies like Marathon literally was a patent troll company up until like last year when they decided to start amassing mining rigs. And I was like, this is such a joke. Like these guys made like $1 million last year, maybe, and they're worth like $6 billion. It just is not grounded in any kind of reality. Like I'm gonna make a huge bet against these guys and make a ton of money. So I was like, before I do that, I'm gonna go confirm that Bitcoin is a joke. I'm gonna do a bunch of research and just like make the case for why it's going to zero and it's worthless. And I did a bunch of research and I was like, actually, never mind. I'm a believer now. So yeah, I totally flipped on that and decided to start getting in on it. And I found all this like really like because everything is public, the ledger's public, like you can get a lot of really advanced insights into Bitcoin, and and you can really see what the market sentiment is. And so if you're willing to like dig into the data, it felt like a safer investment because you could kind of see when the writing is on the wall, when like all the speculative people start coming into the market, like you can analyze this data and see when we're starting to get into a bubble. You can compare it to 2017 when everything spiked. It felt a little more predictable. And so, and that around that time, that's when all these big corporations started getting involved and big financial institutions were starting to look at it. And I was like, okay, this is a real thing now. Like I'm going to get in on it. And but I've only really studied the actual technical aspect of Bitcoin to an extent. I understand the fundamentals of like proof of work. I kind of understand the whole proof of stake alternative that like Ethereum is moving to, but I don't understand it to the level that I would like to. But the more I learn about the underlying technology, the more I'm like, this is going to change everything at some point. Like I'm now convinced, and I may sound crazy when I say this, I'm convinced that at some point in the next 5 to 50 years, like what there's going to be a cryptocurrency that arises, at least one, that basically provides like an all-encompassing economic system, right? Because we've shown like Bitcoin showed that you could programmatically create scarcity. um, Ethereum has these like smart contracts, uh, and all of this is decentralized. And we're seeing like I found a meme coin that basically like if you sell early, it burns your coins, and like so it creates a disincentive to sell. So it's basically literally a meme stock, a meme coin that only goes up. Is what the intent was. You can bake in all of these economic concepts, these financial concepts like scarcity and like buy and sell pressure and all this stuff. And I think in the context of like, we've got the Federal Reserve, which can raise and lower interest rates to, spur economic activity or slow things down, control inflation. They can inject liquidity when there's like a crisis. All of these are things that you could theoretically put into a cryptocurrency. And it just got me thinking about how maybe one day there will just be like an automated decentralized Federal Reserve that like automatically raises and lowers interest rates based on like money moving around between the wallets. And like maybe it even has some kind of universal basic income where there's like some baked in programmatic taxation that happens, and it's all in response to like analysis of the economic activity. And you could really like come up
Wow.
with some pretty in-depth algorithms to control all that stuff. And I think at some point some cryptocurrency will arise that is something like that, and it will incentivize a lot of people to get in on it, and it will become so big that no one can ignore it. It'll start taking over, and I don't know. We'll see.
Wow.
You heard
No,
it here first.
yeah, really though. That's pretty interesting. That's there's so much to go into with the crypto space. There's DeFi as well, and some of the decentralized finance, just like smaller coins that aren't even on any of the real uh, exchanges, but it kind of
Mm-hmm.
is exactly what you're talking about. Again, all these new coins are really trying to create uh, some new space to have, again, whether it be smart contracts or an actual exchange of currencies, but they all have different technologies behind them for specific
Mm-hmm.
types of industries. It's fascinating. Um, sounds like somebody put a bet against the U.S. economy, right, Naaman? So,
Uh-huh.
Naaman. That's so insane. Yeah, and I guess that yeah, depending on when you did it, I guess if you did it like a week ago, it'd probably be good. But
Yeah.
but
Right.
yeah, and
Oh no, he said it didn't end well.
it didn't end well.
That's like
No, yeah,
that's like the
totally.
story of Wall Street Bets. I remember the
Yeah,
battle between the Bulls and the Bears on there,
yeah,
especially
yeah,
during COVID.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so yeah, let's dive it. Speaking of Wall Street bets, like tell us some of your where do you want to
The
start?
story of my downfall. Yeah.
Is
It all started
a
with Wall Street Bets.
retired
Okay,
day
so
trader here, by the way. Retired
yes,
day trader.
a very brief career. Uh, Here's how it started. I've been following Wall Street Bets just for fun for quite a while now. Like, I don't remember when I started following, but definitely last year, maybe the year before. Just kind of casually seeing what people were doing, laughing at people losing a ton of money, and like just kind of being in awe of people who made a ton off of ridiculous bets. And but I never was participating because I was always just like completely anti day trading. Like, there's no way I'm going to beat the market. I'm not even going to try. It's a waste of my time. And then uh, I had a buddy who was really getting into day trading, and he was just kind of like sending me information about stuff he was into. And so it's like last end of last year, he's like, dude, a lot of hype is building around this GameStop stock. Uh, like everybody's saying they're going to do like a short squeeze. Like there's all this due diligence people have done. Like I kind of want to get in on it. And it was at like $20 at the time, $30, and I'm like, dude, GameStop is dead. We're like in the middle of a pandemic. There's no way. This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And he just kept sending me Wall Street Bet stuff about it. I kept ignoring it, and then like obviously you saw what happened. Everybody saw what happened. Uh, Before the whole meme thing happened, though, I was getting more and more FOMO just looking at Wall Street Bets, and I kept thinking like, ah, man, it would be fun to get involved in this. I kind of want to learn this option stuff. Like, I'm gonna just put a little bit of money into a Robinhood account and get in. And like right around New Year's, uh, one of my New Year's resolutions was to shoot first, ask questions later. And so if I had an idea of something I wanted to do, just go in and do it. Don't think about the implications. And I got this idea of doing a little day trading. So I was like, all right, I'm doing it. I'm like driving up from LA with my girlfriend, and we're just talking about like stock picks. And I'm like, what should I invest in? What's some undervalued thing that I can invest in? Because I had already had this idea to invest in a bunch of like COVID battered like hotels and airlines and all that stuff. So I was already going to do that. She's looking through really cheap stocks. She goes, what about AMC? And it was like $2. And I'm like, yeah, I'll get it on AMC, sure. So I buy, you know, $500 worth of AMC at $2 or something like that, and um, it goes up to like $2.05. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm killing it. $2.10. Then it's like $2.50. And I remember seeing that it was starting to get picked up by Wall Street Bets around the same time as all the GameStop stuff. And GameStop had already like shot up to the moon. And I'm starting to see Wall Street Bets pick this up. Every other stock Wall Street Bets has picked up has shot to the moon. And I'm like, it's about to happen to me. I've been chosen. I got in early. And so I'm like panicking, like, how do I make the most money off of this? I need to like buy calls. That's the thing people do, right? And so I bought uh, a series of different calls on AMC, one of which was a weekly call. I spent $11 on it. It was like a $10 weekly call or $5 weekly call. That's what it was. And if you read Wall Street Bets, they don't have very high opinions of buying weekly options because they're basically guaranteed to be worthless. I didn't know this at the time. I didn't know anything about options trading. I just bought a Friday call, and the stock shot up to like $15. So my $11 call became worth $1,100, and I'm like, oh my god, it's happening! Like, I'm making money off of this stupid meme stuff. And I ended up turning like $900 worth of AMC shares and options into, at the peak, like $15,000. And I sold a bunch of it to like lock in some gains, but I was like, this thing's going to 20, it's going to 25. Well, then it went down to like 10 again. So I ended up overall making like seven or $8,000 off of that. And then I was just like addicted, dude, like checking it every day. My friends are all like, everybody's like strung out, waking up with the market. Like literally without an alarm clock, I was waking up with the market open at like 6 in the morning or whatever. And I'm like, I would literally like buy BlackBerry and then sell it like uh 10 minutes later. It makes like $100. I was just like the most day tradiest of day traders. And it was just so all encompassing. And but I never could get that initial AMC high. Like it was like win win win, lose lose lose, win win win, lose win 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 win, lose lose lose. And I felt like overall I was winning more than I was losing, but I was making such small bets that I was just like, this isn't worth it. It's not worth the stress I'm putting myself through right now. I'm gonna start making bigger bets. And so that's when this whole idea to bet against the Bitcoin mining companies came up. I was like, this is going to be the big one. I'm going to put like thousands. I'm going to put all my AMC winnings into this bet. And then I became a believer in the Bitcoin stuff. And so I didn't know how to play it. All of the Bitcoin mining stocks were way too high already. I was like, there's no way I can make money off of this. I need to find one that hasn't taken off yet. Well, then my buddy sends me this penny stock called support.com. They have announced that they're going to do a reverse merger with a Bitcoin mining company that owns its own power plant up in New York. They literally like burn natural gas and turn it into Bitcoin. And they were going to go public through support.com. And I'm looking at the stock price, I'm doing the math, I'm looking at the investor presentation. I'm like, this thing is so undervalued compared to these other Bitcoin companies. Like, this is it. This is the big bet. So the stock went from before the announcement, it was like $2 a share. It shot up to like $9, and then it kind of like tapered off to like $8. I bought like 500 shares, bought some calls. Then it goes down to $7. I bought a few hundred more shares, bought some more calls, goes down to $6. Like, bought a few hundred more shares. Now I start selling puts where like I'm still betting it's going to go up. I'm basically saying like, I'll buy it at this price. I'll buy it at $4 here. I'll sell a put. I'll buy it at $4. If it goes down to that, then I got to pay $4 a share. Well, then it goes down to $4 a share, and then $3 a share. Literally just the slow tumble over a period of like 1 or 2 months. And today it got all the way down to, let's see, $2.48. So we're almost back down to the pre-merger announcement, and it's been a mixture of problems. All of the Bitcoin mining companies have collapsed in value. Uh, this company in particular, the Bitcoin mining company merging with Support, it's this company called Greenidge. They have had a huge backlash from the local community saying like, we don't want Bitcoin mining in New York. It's generating too much pollution. It's ruining our lake, everything about it. We don't want it. They're fighting tooth and nail. Now politicians are going to introduce legislation. Long story short, it's not looking good for this merger. And now it's basically gone right back down to when it was just a penny stock. And I put a lot of money into that thing, and all of my winnings from day trading ever since I created my Robinhood account are now gone, and I'm overall down 8%. So that was when I decided it was time to retire, because I ran out of money in my brokerage account, and I refused to put more in because I know where that will lead. So yeah.
Do you still, I assume you do, but do you still have to pay taxes on those gains even though you lost them? Or can you do some?
Uh, I think I did because, well, no, actually, it's all happened this year, right? So I realized the AMC gains. So if I basically go the rest of this year and don't realize my losses, I will have to pay tax on those gains. But the moment I realize those losses, then I'll get to write those off. I don't know. I refuse to do it. I'm going, now that it's down to $2.48, I'm just going to hang in there until the merger is supposed to go through like uh, in Q3, I think. And so now I'm just like, I'm going to hang on until that merger goes through, see what happens. There's still a chance it'll recover, but it's not looking good. But anybody out there, if you're looking for a good play, okay, I got one of my buddies in on this stock at like $4. I was like, dude, there's no way it's gonna drop below $4. Like, I mean, we're so low. I didn't think it would drop below $5. Well, now it's 250. So apologies to
You
my
gotta
friend
buy the
David.
dip, right? It's like when Drill
Dude, I
Team
bought I
6 is
bought
on
so many
duty.
dips. So many dips were bought. I can't. I ran out of money to buy dips. I literally used my last bit of buying power in Robinhood to buy one more dip today
Okay, got it.
against my best interest.
That's
But you guys
hilarious.
out there, you can help because it's a penny stock. It doesn't take much to move the stock price. If you all just pitch in like $200,000 or $300,000 each. Like we could bring this thing back to $6.
Tony's like, hey, come when it's $1.
It might happen at that rate. Please do not jinx
Yeah, please.
it. Please, please, please,
Yeah,
Tony.
amazing, amazing. And wow, what a great recommendation though by your girlfriend with AMC though. I will say, props.
I know.
Right.
She also recommended Crocs because she's a big fan of Crocs. And let me tell you what a growth stock
Really?
that the world is sleeping on right now. If you go look at Crocs 5-year chart, you're gonna see a straight line up to the
Yeah,
right,
that's
like with not a single bit of dip. It had like a tiny little COVID dip, but then everybody was like, dude, who's not gonna want to buy Crocs during a pandemic?
here. Let's see. Let's see. I will share the screen. Uh,
Yeah.
Chrome.
See, Naman suggested pumping it on Wall Street Bets. The unfortunate situation. This is why I called myself a Wall Street Bets reject. Wall Street Bets does in fact have rules about what stocks you can talk about, and
Really?
if it's below $1 billion in market cap, you're not allowed to even post about it because people think that it's just market manipulation. They're trying to pump penny stocks. So I literally, if I posted about support.com on Wall Street Bets, I would get banned. This was actually a problem with AMC in the beginning because it used to be like 500 million in market cap, and that's why I had time to get my plan together because I was waiting for it to inch up to that 1 billion mark so that then the floodgates would be opened and they would start talking about it. But yeah, StockTwits really is a cesspool. I Yeah, I don't know who
Look
uses
at
that
this.
website. It's pure insanity.
Yeah, dude. Wow, look at Crocs. So did she
Dude,
end
yeah,
up getting
Crocs.
Crocs too?
She got a pair of Crocs. I bought Croc stock, and that's been one of the few winners in my portfolio.
Yeah.
Ironically, all of the COVID battered stocks that I bought, that was my original plan, all doing great pretty much. Like some of them doing fantastic.
Wow.
Crocs
What were some
doing awesome.
what were some of the other ones that you made bets on?
I have, let me just pull it up for you real quick. Oh, forgot how to use my phone for a second. Okay, let's see. We've got a whole bunch of them. I like to make little index funds of my own,
Like on
and
M1? Do you have M1?
I don't have M1, but like that, but manual and like super tedious. So I have like uh, Delta, Southwest, United, American. I got the
So Jets, Tony was just talking about that. He said Jets
yeah,
was an investment. I did get Jets actually. Um,
yeah.
I did get Jets, but I don't think I bought in at this point. I actually was buying in. Yeah, so I saw it was there. I definitely bought in like somewhere around here, I think ish. He said, I think buy what you use and it's safe bet. Yeah, seconds if you can afford it. Wait, yeah, 2 3 years make a big difference. Yeah.
See, the buy what you use. I'm glad you said that because that I decided to try that, and let me tell you, everything that I use is a tech stock, and I bought them all at the peak, and they've all been cratering. Uh, almost every single tech stock that I bought, or like everything I bought based on what I used, has since like gone down 10 to 20%.
So
I think the timing was just bad. I'm gonna hold on to that stuff forever.
I I will
But
plug
yeah,
this. I will plug this just because we have a couple of games of people here. Um, Griffin is Griffin app. So Griffins. So this is actually made by a UF team, UF students, University of Florida students. Little shout out. Basically, every time you make a purchase at one of these stores or subscription based things or again like whatever, you actually buy $1 of their stock, $1 worth of their stock. So basically, again, you buy a coffee at Starbucks, you buy $1 worth of Starbucks stock.
Oh, interesting.
And so you connect your credit card, you make the purchase, and you automatically buy $1 of their. Oh, this is actually the example they use,
Yeah. That's
right?
actually kind of clever. Yeah. I mean, it
Really.
makes sense, right? Like if you're using it and you love the product, chances are other people are too, and they're spending money on it. But I think the mistake I made was that a lot of people use that strategy. And so that kind of gets priced in, right? Like this is the whole philosophy in a random walk down Wall Street. Everything you think about, like everything that motivates you to buy a stock has probably motivated other people to buy that same stock, which has
Mm,
driven the price up to a point where it's already priced in. Like I love my car. I drive a Tesla. I love it. I bought Tesla stock. A lot of other people love Tesla. A lot of other people have bought Tesla stock. Tesla stock's extremely hyped up. So all of the things I love about it are super priced in already and then some. Like they're valued at an amount that can only be justified by like them completely taking over the world, you know? I mean, they're worth more than all the other car companies.
yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
Fascinating.
but
Yeah. No, I
but
think
yeah,
it's true. It's true. I think that there's definitely. What would you recommend any specific? Well, first off, any other main bets or stories like that you wanted to share as well that I could look into? And what was the you said support.com?
yeah, support.com. The ticker is SPRT.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
I mean, you can kind of see the I guess it's gonna
yeah. No,
block it here
I'm
because of
share
my
I'm sharing
background.
I'm sharing it.
It
I'm
does
sharing
not
it.
look like my up and to the. I
Boop.
guess it's up and to the left, up and to the right back here.
And it probably
It's
even minimizes the number here. You said it was up teens or whatnot early March
it
or
hit.
mid
It
March.
peaked at like $9,
$9, $9,
and
$9
then
right
it
here.
just absolutely tanked, just completely. I mean, this chart is, in a nutshell, the downfall of my day trading career. It's just a peak and then a pew.
What did that sound like again? I couldn't. Yeah. Yeah, but wow, look at when it IPO'd. Back in the dot-com boom, it IPO'd at basically $100, and within a
Oh yeah.
year it went down. Yeah. The problem is the market is manipulated on a federal level, he said on the comments here. Uh, yeah, it's any thoughts on that? On the manipulation from the government and
Yeah,
you know,
I mean
emphasis on
that
S&P.
definitely happened, right? I've learned. I mean, I still don't. I'm not an economist for sure, but I've listened to some smart economists talk about the situation, and like one of the things I've learned out of all this is apparently like one of the first things to experience inflation when like the government pumps money into the system is stock market, because like with quantitative easing and everything, and with like all the ways that they inject liquidity into the market, the first thing to experience that is the stock market, because capital becomes much more available for all these like I guess all the big institutional investors, and that kind of makes its way down to like other people that are buying stocks. And so like before it ever affects consumer goods, it's pumping up all the stock prices, and we obviously saw that. I mean, COVID, by all like accounts, should have
That
completely demolished the stock market, and it did for a very brief period of time. But then they
very
turned that
brief.
money printer on, and it came right back.
Here, yeah, I mean, if we just look at like the Dow Jones, right? I mean, if we just go a year, it's just like only growth, like incredible. You know, I
Yeah,
remember,
I mean, you could have made so much money. Like I'm kicking myself to this day for not doing this because like going into COVID, I forget why exactly. I had a bunch of cash saved up. I think because I was doing contract work and it was a new thing. I didn't know how consistent it was going to be, and so I was just shoving all that money into a checking account. And so I was sitting on uh, a good amount of cash, and then everything collapsed, and I'm like, oh my god, this is the dip of all dips. I should buy this. But then I just kept saying, I don't know how it might dip more. We
Yeah.
should wait. It's probably going to dip more. I don't know what I should put it in. And I ended up just putting like a few $1,000s into airlines, and I made 1,800 bucks off of that, which was like a 40% return, but it just wasn't a big enough bet. If I had put all of my cash into literally anything,
Anything. Yeah.
anything, I could have made 2x, 3x, 4x. I mean, some things went up 5x. Crocs. I mean, gosh, I would have put everything into Crocs. Why did I not know about Crocs? But
Really though, right? Like, geez.
yeah, a lot of people became a lot wealthier from that crash for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
It's interesting. But so so right now, I'd like to just ask you more along the your perspective on the current market then, and how you like what are your thoughts on where it's going from now, from here, right? So,
Yeah, I having lost a bunch on the market doing these little meme plays and stuff. I'm now retreating back to my old random walk down Wall Street philosophy of saying I have no idea. I don't know where things are going to go. It seems to only go up and to the right. We're starting to get like some fear about inflation and stuff. Um, that's obviously not going to have a good effect. We've seen that rippling throughout the economy over the past few days. I can't say what's going to happen. I mean, if you had asked me at the beginning of COVID what was going to happen, if you had told me that COVID was going to last as long as it did, I would have told you that the stock market would have been down 50% for the whole time. I
right.
mean, or more.
It
But it went up. It broke records.
it should
So
it's yeah. Yeah,
it's
really.
truly an unprecedented time. I could not tell you if everything's going to collapse next week or next month or whatever, or if we're going to hit all-time highs in 2021. I personally feel because we are going into like the reopening, the recovery, to me, it feels like it's going to be a time of exuberance, optimism, things reopening, like everything beating expectations. Uh, I feel like that will be good for the stock market, but we have this whole inflation thing. We'll see how that all pans out. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm just gonna. I mean, obviously, I have no income right now, so I'm not really putting money anywhere. But if I did, I would just be back to putting everything in diversified stuff. Because in the long run, these little dips are just gonna be noise, and the trend will always be up and to the right. So
Nice. So that's your current investment strategy is kind of reverting back to a walk down Wall Street theory.
jumping into
And
Wealthfront.
yeah, that was my next question. So, platforms that you use and recommend. Obviously, you're a big Wealthfront guy. Um,
Yep.
and
Yep.
so we already kind of plugged it a little earlier. There's so much to say about it. Honestly, again, it is a really solid company. I do use it a lot as well. That's why I do have the recommended links in the comments and description here. Um, but feel free to add your own Blake once this is posted, and
We'll
we
compete.
get
Yeah.
see who gets more referrals. Yeah. But yeah, Wealthfront is obviously the move. Um, any other accounts that you recommend as well that you also use and like a lot?
Wealthfront's the main one. Before that, I was using Vanguard just because they have a lot of really low cost index funds. They're like the industry leader for that stuff. And it's a lot of times what Wealthfront buys under the hood is Vanguard ETFs. So if you didn't want to pay the 0.25% management fee at Wealthfront, you could go and buy the same stuff on Vanguard directly. You'll miss out on like tax loss harvesting and like I get direct indexing and some other little magic stuff that I don't quite understand. But my understanding is that like the features that Wealthfront provides pay for the fee in terms of the money that it saves you and the extra gains it gets. I mean, is it true? I don't know. I haven't verified it, but other than that, though, like BlockFi is pretty cool. I do like I like the stuff that's going on with DeFi and like crypto lending and all that stuff. I think there's a lot of potential in that space. Um, I want to learn more about DeFi. That whole world is very interesting to me. I just learned what staking is all about and like liquidity mining or whatever. I'm still kind of not super
Yeah,
solid on
what
these
is
things, but
staking?
staking, my understanding is that like in a proof of stake network, like the whole idea of these
Oh,
decentralized networks is you don't want any one party to have too much power to be able to take over the network, and because then they can like duplicate their coins and stuff. And so the way Bitcoin solved that is by requiring like immense computing resources. So like nobody can get enough computing resources to overwhelm the network, but obviously it's super inefficient. With proof of stake, I believe the idea is that instead of using computing power, you just use the coins themselves. So like by staking your coin, uh, you're you're I just don't understand the
it,
full like
according to Google,
technical aspect of it. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I pulled this up. It says decentralized staking works by directly locking up tokens on a blockchain. Tokens can be staked or locked inside the network in exchange for the chance to produce a block, which in turn you would receive a reward for, which is called proof of stake. That's a lot that
Right. So like it seems like in practice, instead of like me going and buying a big mining rig to mine Bitcoin and validate transactions, I instead can just buy Ethereum, stake it, and it's almost like I'm a Ethereum miner, but I'm not at all. It's like I'm not participating in the proof of work aspect of Ethereum. I'm participating in the proof of stake, and
proof of ownership.
it seems like the outcome is the same. Like you're helping validate transactions, you're helping keep the network secure, and you get rewards for doing that. And I just love the whole concept of this decentralized stuff. Like I think it's like from a political aspect, I think it's very interesting because it spreads power around instead of centralizing it. And I think we've only just begun tapping into like what that enables. Um, I think it's super cool. Like I just figured out what this whole like there's this service called Uniswap now, that's become very popular. It's a decentralized exchange. So right, we've got like Coinbase and Binance, which are centralized exchanges. Now you can trade the cryptocurrencies in a decentralized way using these decentralized exchanges. And the way they work is that people stake their coins to add liquidity to these markets, and they basically make money off of allowing people to trade in this decentralized way. It's all very cool stuff. I don't know, like I used to hate on cryptocurrencies for just being all fluff and having no real practical applications, but I feel like we're starting to see some of the interesting financial applications of this stuff.
Yeah, I like it's very interesting. Hopefully, I'll have a friend come on who does a lot of DeFi, runs some DeFi platforms. Like,
Please do. Yeah. I would
yeah,
love to hear just like the full lowdown
yeah.
from somebody who gets the tech behind it. Like, I actually want to sit down and like create my own cryptocurrency, not to like
Hey, we
make money
talked
off
about
of it
that. Yeah,
necessarily. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
we did. Right.
Moon
Uh,
currency, moon
yeah.
coin.
Moon rocket. That
Yeah,
definitely exists already.
it's somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's super interesting stuff. I'd love to. I feel like it's not going anywhere. This technology is proving that it has uses. Unlike in 2017 when it was pretty much exclusively speculative, and maybe there were like some very, very early adopters doing real stuff with it. Now, like there are people borrowing money using crypto. They're like
It's
doing real
ridiculous.
things with it. There's a whole ecosystem developing, like a whole financial world developing around it. And
What was what was your first memory of crypto
I
or
was in
experience?
college.
Yeah.
I think it was probably 2011. I was on Hacker News. Somebody brought up this thing called Bitcoin, decentralized digital currency. And I was like, this sounds kind of interesting. And they're like, oh, yeah, you could just mine it with a computer, get Bitcoin. It's like worth, you know, $1. It's like, oh, wow, that's crazy. $1 for like a digital thing. That's really weird. So I like downloaded the Bitcoin miner onto my laptop and I started reading through the README and it was just like all these different steps. And I was like, ugh, this isn't worth it. I'm not doing this. Like whatever. It's probably not worth the power that I'm putting into it with my laptop. It's only $1 for a Bitcoin. It's stupid. I just put it down and never thought of it again. And
Nice.
obviously, that story could have ended much differently. But it pays to be very interested in things that are kind of weird. I feel
Yeah,
like there's a lot of money to be made there.
can't agree more. Can't agree more. And then as we will wrap up shortly, do you have any favorite stocks? I know that we already mentioned some that you already like have invested in story wise, but do you have any favorite
Yeah.
ones that you're you know that you like a lot?
I mean, I would love if everybody bought support.com,
Support
but
tech.
I recognize that's not going to happen. If the
Can't go
SEC
below
is
four
watching, I'm
dollars.
not trying to manipulate the market. Okay,
Yeah.
we've reached the bottom, people. It's going to pop at some point. No, I think I don't know. I don't really feel that comfortable recommending stocks just because I clearly am terrible at it. But buy Crocs, dude. Crocs is it's becoming a fashion statement and they're becoming cool now in like in an ironic way. Like Justin Bieber has his own line of Crocs.
Oh,
Go follow the Crocs Instagram page if you don't believe me. Like it's a legit thing now. It's a movement.
it's a movement. Get behind it, y'all. And then so yeah, and as we wrap up again for those watching, if you guys do have any other questions, feel free to ask them. He says, what do you think about Kathy Wood's ETFs?" Uh
I haven't done a ton of research on the ARC stuff. I like when all this meme stuff started happening, I ended up in like 5 different group chats with people investing, and like one of them was very into. They were basically copying everything Kathy Wood did. They weren't buying the ETFs directly. They were just like following what a bunch of different hedge funds were doing and trying to like follow uh, and copy them. Um, I felt like, I mean, I don't know what she's doing under the hood. She's clearly been making amazing returns up until recently, but I don't know. It seems like it reminds me of like earlier this year when everything was going up and everybody was making money. I was seeing all these people popping up on like Instagram and Facebook saying, like, I turned $1,000 into $10,000 and I know everything about investing now. I'm going to start selling my services to people. And when they say what stocks they were buying, it's like all these things that if you just sat down for 5 minutes and were like, I want to buy some new, like, cool things, it would be like, biotech, uh, renewable energy, solar, like electric vehicles, like electric vehicle charging, all these things that are like new hype technologies. And I think just so many people piled onto those that it like Kathy Wood's ETFs just all blew up partially because of that. And all these people felt like they were super smart investors just because like they all bought the same thing, not necessarily because the underlying fundamentals are there. And I don't know. We'll see though. I don't know anything. Kathy Wood is much more has much more expertise than I do. I read one investing book, guys. Okay, at the end of the day, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. she's gonna do much better than me in life. So she's clearly onto something, but I still just believe in the whole boring index fund, total stock market, all that kind of stuff. Like VTI, there's my ETF recommendation. VTI, that's the one. It's on a dip. Great time to buy, guys. Get in there, make a lot of money.
VTI, VT Sachs is also another popular one.
VT yeah, that's the mutual fund form of that. I think it's the total Vanguard total stock market, right?
Yeah.
Admiral shares, the stuff for
Yeah.
the high ticket item people.
And yeah, and again, if you guys have any other last minute questions, feel free to pop those down in the comments here as we start wrapping up. Some of the more final ones that we have here are do you have any quirky or unique games slash activities or tricks that you might use with your money? And specifically
Actually,
like rounding up or some, something specific, zeroing out accounts or some,
it's actually not for saving money, but it involves money. So I'll offer this to whoever finds use in it. It's uh, I'm a I find it very difficult to motivate myself to do things sometimes, as we all do, and but I'm also very motivated by external factors, right? And especially like the prospect of losing money. I mean, I know I just talked about losing a ton of money on penny stocks, but believe it or not, at some point in my life, the idea of losing money and wasting it, very painful for me. And so I came up with this bright idea one time as a way to motivate myself to do certain things. Like if I had a goal that I wanted to achieve, I would Venmo my friend $500 and say, unless I accomplish this goal by this time, don't send me that money back. You can keep it if I don't do it. And it works. It really works. So if you actually want to like, if there's some personal goal you're trying to achieve, like do that. And hey, I'm happy to be the person who accepts that money. Okay.
yeah.
So I can't guarantee that it won't be used to purchase support.com, but yeah.
Put it into BlackFi, get that 8 for 6% as long as you can, and then
Dude,
yeah.
hey, actually, there's something to that, right? It's a
Yeah.
win-win for
I
everyone.
I'll also that's a funny point. Do you ever meet Connor Grooms in UF?
I think one time
You know who I'm
maybe.
talking about?
I think so.
He was a year younger than me, and dropped out of UF, did a whole bunch of random stuff. I'm not gonna get into his story, it's an amazing story. Ended up
Hmm.
finding himself after a year living in Colombia with the sole purpose of learning Spanish and making a documentary about himself learning Spanish. And he did the same thing where he gave somebody a chunk of money that was like motivational for him. And there's actually a documentary about it that he made. It's actually
Nice.
live. He started. It was like an October time frame. He did all of October, whatever the month was. It was near the end of the year, fall time frame, and learned Spanish conversationally in a month. He had like a metric he wanted to reach.
Oh wow. Hmm.
And as he was doing this, his teacher that he was talking to and learning from was developing like this platform to help people learn Spanish. And my friend Connor was a big marketing guy. He knew exactly how to design. He was a design person that is just an expert on all things aesthetics and websites and whatnot. And this guy who's developing this platform needed somebody with Connor's skill set, and obviously he was also teaching him Spanish. And so during this documentary that they were filming together at that point, was like, hey, let's join forces and let's start a company. You use this documentary as the marketing like
Oh nice.
piece to it. And it was in fall, late at the end of the year, and they said, well, we're gonna try to get our shit together for New Year's and launch this before New Year's so people can sign up and
As a New Year's
as a
resolution.
New Year's
Oh,
resolution. And
interesting.
they launched the documentary like November, like December time frame to build up the hype and excitement, and then launched New Year's. It's a million views now on YouTube plus, million
Oh
plus
really?
views. Yeah.
Wow.
and the company is doing great. Like it's just
Dude, send me a
insane,
link. I'll watch that for sure.
insane.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
100%, 100%.
Yeah, I've
Uh,
heard part of that story before about him, just about him like starting that company,
yeah,
and like moving to Colombia, but I didn't know that full spiel about the documentary.
baseline,
A slang.
baseline,
Okay,
baseline. Yeah, I'll give them a little plug here too. Let me just
sweet.
and so yeah, right here. Yeah, and so it's pretty cool company. Um, and it's just an immersive experience in Medellin, and that's what he did. So, but yeah, but exactly to your point, if you go on to get something done, there's like no better way to do it than to give somebody a bunch of money that you're, uncomfortable about losing. Um,
Right, right.
and then we've also been talking about being good with money just as much as you've been bad with money, like all the above, right? Question for you is, do you have any guilty pleasures, like what's something you spend money on that you'll treat yourself
Mm.
to every so often? Canyon Inn.
I mean, obviously Canyon Inn, right? If you guys live in the Bay Area, best burger that I've ever had in my life. Uh,
Really though.
and I want to qualify that by saying every time I go back to Canyon Inn, I think it's not going to be that good this time. It's not the best burger. I'm hyping it up too much. And then I eat it again and I'm like, this is the best burger I've ever had in my life.
So good.
Canyon Inn
So
in
good.
Redwood City. Go there.
So good. So good.
Plant a little green flag on it. Google Maps want to go. Go there. Trust me.
Major move at the
Um,
Google Maps flags, by the way.
dude, yeah.
Yeah.
Game changing.
Yeah.
You should plug that on the show at some point. Mark all of your want to goes.
Google
Create a
Maps.
database. Anyway, what was the
Yeah.
question? Oh yeah,
Guilty
guilty
pleasure.
pleasures.
Guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasures. Let me think. I mean, it's got to be dining out for me. That's usually like the second biggest source of expenses. And if I had to like hone in on one thing, I love real good sushi, man. Stuff's good. Like
Mm.
a good. I don't do this often, but like a good omakase, like sit down at the table and they like bring you all the different courses and stuff. But just like I'll even go to like Nijiya Market and just get a bunch of random sushi quality fish and make a giant spread at home. It's just like
It-
it's unparalleled.
Let me know. I've
I
never
it's
done that. I don't
dude,
think I've been to that market
I
before.
mean it's I've heard there are actually better fish markets in the Bay Area, but I mean I love it. You get like a slab of salmon, cut it up into little nigiri slices, get a little soy sauce and wasabi. They have like the authentic wasabi paste there, dude. It's like it's like when people ask that question about what meal would you have if you it was like your last meal, or like what would you eat if
Really?
you had to eat the
That
same
good?
thing. Omakase, dude, or like just the sushi spread, the sashimi, the nigiri. Ugh, dude, so good.
Wow.
Another reason why I spent so much in Japan.
Yeah,
So
you actually
good.
know what you like. That's a good thing. It's a good thing.
For sure, for sure.
And then other things to personalize you as well, right? You have also more background as we're wrapping up here. Driving across the country, what music are you listening to?
Oh, dude. I mean, we could start a whole other podcast about
About
music.
just this, yeah.
I, my buddy Alex and I have started a playlist of playlists on Spotify. I'll send the links out because we're always trying to spread the gospel here. Started out one called Vibrations, which is like just chill, kind of some lo-fi, kind of some like trip hop vibes. That's my general go-to. Um, it's just very relaxing, kind of space music, you know. Um, and then we've got that inspired a whole list of other playlists that end with like Asians. We've got scintillations, we've got meditations, we've got infatuations. That's like R&B, like baby making music. You know,
Nice.
we've got a whole bunch of them. But yeah, dude, I would say for a road trip, Vibrations is my go-to. I can't think of any particular artists that I would plug, but I'll share a link out. It's good stuff if you're into that kind of thing.
Great. I'm about to go on a road trip, so let's do it. Send it over.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
And
That's
then,
one of my guilty pleasures right there. Road trips, dude. 100%.
and what is your favorite book or movie? And or maybe both.
Favorite book or movie? I mean, for movies, definitely Rush Hour, hands down.
So good.
Cinematic masterpiece.
You understand the words? Yeah, so good.
You laugh, but at the same time, that was the answer to that question for like the first 20 years of my life. And I don't know why I've changed it other than like people come up with like more serious answers like Schindler's List or something,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I'm still gonna plug Rush Hour,
I
Rush
made
Hour's good.
a Jackie Chan joke today at work. Some one of my coworkers is about to be a dad any moment, and they're talking about how they still haven't decided on a name, and I was like Jackie Chan. It was like
Just Jackie Chan. First
it's
name,
Jackie
Jackie
Chan.
Chan.
That's exactly right. Jackie Chan, his last name. That was this whole thing.
Hyphenated, Jackie Chan. That's
Exactly.
hilarious.
Exactly. Exactly. Got a couple laughs there. It was funny. I said in a big meeting with everybody, and yeah, it was a good one. Felt good about that joke.
Dude, I mean, who doesn't love Jackie Chan, right?
It's the greatest. I was walking in Chinatown here. I saw like an old like 19 90s poster with Jackie Chan on like movie poster that just like I guess hasn't been taken down.
Dude,
Yeah.
he's an absolute legend,
The, the,
immortal. I
yeah.
love that guy.
And then uh I think that the last question here is just is there something about your finances that you really want to talk about that we haven't touched on or something you're really excited about that you're looking to do more about or learn more about maybe? Obviously we spoke a lot about DeFi in that space,
Yeah,
but
touched on the DeFi. I would love to get more into all of the crypto stuff, um, but not in a speculative way. Purely like I want to
like actually
understand the
knowing it.
technical side of it
Yeah.
and make bets on things that make technical sense.
Yeah.
Um, other than that, I don't know. I'm always open to like interesting ways to diversify. Like I don't own any precious metals. That could be cool. I know.
Or
We'll
there's
have to plug
a really cool YouTube channel that's starting up right now.
coming out. Scrooge McStacker, you guys. Don't
Scrooge
follow him yet. He's not
McStacker.
ready, but
Here,
subscribe. He'll be surprised.
is there a, I think I tried looking it up on YouTube before.
It's out there. We'll find a link. I'm a subscriber. So uh yeah, precious metals. I don't know, just random weird stuff. I love seeing different investment vehicles. Like there's like that company Fundrise that does like you can invest in like
Rise.
commercial real estate directly. That's kind of interesting. I don't know, just weird stuff. I'm really into. I want to get more into real estate too. Like, I would love to do that. I know you're a big real estate investor guy.
At this
I
point.
have this dream of really the long term goal is to buy like a few hundred acres in Northern California and just do the commune thing, start a cult, do the whole 9 yards. I want to get like a Netflix documentary made about me.
In Blake we trust. Get
Yeah,
a
exactly.
get a yeah. Have you seen Waco?
I have not. No.
I'm
But
not
Wild
gonna
Wild Country, hey, if I had to plug a TV show, dude, go watch Wild Wild
really.
Country.
I'll add it to the
Yeah,
list, man.
that's a good cult one. That's basically my
it's a
life
good
goal. I
it's a
want to
good cult
be
one.
Rajneesh is my goal. If I don't become like Rajneesh by the end, it,
Based on a true
you'll get it when
story?
you see it, dude. 100%. It's
Really?
wild,
Wow.
wild. It's so wild they put it in the name twice. Wild Wild Country. Go
Wow.
check it out,
I will look that up. I will look that up. But it's been a pleasure talking with you, Blake.
dude. Thanks for
Um,
having me, man. Appreciate
thanks
it.
for joining. You're one of the first people I called when I had this idea, and I'm super thankful that you had decided to join and make
Absolutely,
this
dude.
as special as it has been.
I
So,
never pass up an opportunity to pretend like I know what I'm talking about with money, you know?
yeah. Well, hey man, always happy to have you back. We'll have a check-in maybe and see where things are going from here.
Once
Um,
I'm employed again. Yeah, sounds good, dude.
yeah. Perfect, man. Well, in that case, I will thank you for joining and thank you everybody for watching as well. And if you're watching live, thank you so much for all the comments, participation today was a great day for that. Thanks for, all the participation here is awesome. And then if you're watching on YouTube and all the other platforms, feel free to like, subscribe, notification bell, all that other fun stuff. But again, Blake, the man. If people wanna reach out and find you, where can they do that? If you want
Uh,
people to reach out and find you,
I have deleted Instagram, but that's probably the best place. I,
you
I, I
deleted
download it
Instagram.
like once every couple weeks. Check in, see if any of my loyal fans have reached out to me. That's at 𝙒𝙬𝙤𝙬 Matson. Other than that, I check Facebook every now and then. Blake Matson, whatever. They know. They're seeing it on Facebook Live.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Perfect, man. Well, again, thanks again for joining.
Thanks
Appreciate
for
having
having
you
me.
on, and keep doing big things, man.
Thanks. Will do.
Later.